Hi, I'm Valerie.
And I'm Taylor.
And welcome to
Whimsy Gossip,
where we talk all things fantasy
and our favorite ways to escape reality.
Today's episode.
Ooh. We're spilling that tea.
Spilling the high fae tea. This is going to be a controversial one.
So, today's episode is Team Rhysand.
But we do not hate Tamlin.
No, we don't hate Tamlin.
Yes. And so I know, don't turn it off. Don't turn it off. Just hear us out. Just hear us out, okay? We're in the spring court. You know, it's good vibes. Go grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea and come chat with us a little bit today as we kind of spill our thoughts on this.
We kind of would like to discuss, or not kind of, we are going to discuss on the reasons why we don't think Tamlin deserves as much hate as he's been getting. Because both of us, when we read this series, we both kind of sort of felt that Rhysand was 1000% the better match for Feyre. But Tamlin wasn't the villain like a Hybern or an Amarantha or an Ianthe.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't one of those villains for us. So, while we saw so many people online and so many people that we talked to were like, I hate Tamlin! And I was like, why do you hate him?
Yeah, exactly.
And we've had discussions like this with a lot of other people.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought it would be an interesting topic to cover.
Yeah, and kind of share that similar discussion with all of you. I know that when I started reading the series, obviously in ACOTAR, I really loved Tamlin. Mm-hmm. And my coworkers who introduced me to the book, they were just like, you just wait. I'm not going to say anything about Tamlin. And I kept going and I kept reading it and I was just like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, why there's so much, like, why do you guys not like him so much? What is he going to do? And we'll get to some of those points that, you know, different points in the books where people make the turning point for Tamlin, where they say he's like unredeemable and unforgivable. But even like when Taylor told me she was starting to read the series and she was talking about Tamlin and how she loved him, and I was like, oh, finally somebody else who agrees with me or sees my point. But I do distinctly remember, I was like, oh, have you read Mist and Fury yet? And she hadn't gotten to that point. So I was like, oh no, I'm so scared. Like, what if you're going to change your opinion? So I kept checking in with you, you know, remember? Like, I was like, so where are you now? What's happened now? How do you still feel about Tamlin? And you were pretty consistent, just like me.
I've stayed consistent on my opinions on Tam for a while now. I feel like I love Rhys for Feyre, and I think, I mean, who doesn't love Rhysand? Let's be real. Rhysand is like boyfriend goals 101. Mm-hmm. But I don't hate Tamlin, and I can give him a lot of grace because I believe, you know, there's so many layers to characters, and I think there's a lot of depth and a lot of things we don't know about Tamlin.
Right.
That we do know that we're kind of forgetting, that we've been kind of hinted at throughout the series. And I just feel like there's a rhyme and reason to why he acts the way he acts. Doesn't excuse it, doesn't make like an excuse and make it okay, but, you know. Anyway, we should get into this episode. Instead of talking about this, we have some talking points. So
yes.
I'm start on into this.
I'm so freaking excited. Obviously, as you can tell, I love the spring court. I think that I do have a little bit of a bias. Not really. I think I've just, not even a bias, I've just grown to love it, I think, even more as I kind of dive into kind of becoming this, I don't know, on a crusade to protect and convince people of Tam. Like, it's just made me and fueled me up even more to just try to, like, you know, share my thoughts and, like, try to change people's minds about him. But I did want to start off in talking about some of the biggest criticisms of critiques. I can't speak. The biggest critiques of Tamlin. And I think the number one critique is that Tamlin is abusive and obsessive. And so I think we need to kind of address that right up. No, we do not support obsessive tendencies in relationships, and we do not promote abuse.
Or support abuse of any kind, because I think both of us have had relationships in the past that haven't been
maybe the most healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Been there, done that, not physical, kind of sort of verbal abuse, mental abuse, been through it all. Anyway, so coming from that place, I think I can safely say now being in a really healthy relationship, a normal relationship, neither of us support any of those behaviors because we know what it can do and the trauma it can cause long term for a lot of people who are still like recovering. Like I know sometimes my husband's wonderful and perfect and I'll just still have like a PTSD moment where I'm waiting for a certain reaction because I'm used to this reaction. I'm like almost like on eggshells, like inching away, like, oh my gosh, is he gonna lose it again? Is he gonna lose it? And my husband will sometimes look at me like, are you okay? I'm like, aren't you gonna get mad and get angry and blow up? And he's like, no. So
we get it.
We very well understand and get it.
Do not support abuse.
No.
However, with that being said, we also like want to dive in and understand why people are the way they are, why they're behaving this way, and we because we can look at Tamlin and look into his past and look at what happened and how the first book Tamlin to the second book Tamlin, like complete change in such a short time. Like, sure, he had some things in the first book where he was still dealing with his anger and his beast mentality and all of that. But I think it's important to kind of talk a little bit about, you know, his background and how he got to this point of why he's so controlling, one, and then two, his anger issues.
Absolutely. Because I think there's a lot of depth to him. While I will stand and I will die on this hill, I think Homeboy needs some therapy.
Yeah, agreed.
I really think he needs therapy. I don't think he's inherently evil.
They don't have therapy in the Prithian world, and that's a problem because he definitely needs to work through his problems, his traumas. But did you want to kind of dive into a little bit of his background?
Yeah, so I think, so I read ACOTAR, then I listened to it on graphic audio, and then I'm now just rereading it all over again. So I feel like I really, like as an ACOTAR, I read the whole series, listened to the whole series, and now I'm rereading the whole series again. So I just finished ACOTAR. I'm on Mist and Fury right now, and when I was reading it, I was remembering Tamlin on multiple levels. He was just really happy out. If he could be a traveling fiddle player, he would have been more than happy out just to be a traveling fiddle player going across the world. He was a war grunt for his dad's army. That's just what he was. He says multiple times he never wanted to be a High Lord, but he, at a young age, like we hear all the time about that glow, that he kind of like used to glamour and dull a bit, because he had the power to be a High Lord, unlike his brothers. Like it was definitely showing. So as we heard with like Lucian and even Azriel, like, you know, siblings can be really crappy in this Prithian world, and I can only imagine if his brothers who wanted to be High Lord saw that Tamlin was developing those powers to become High Lord, the trauma and the abuse that he probably sustained. Also, we know Tamlin's father was very abusive.
Yeah.
And Tamlin's father believed in slavery and all that stuff, and along with his brothers also believed in slavery. And we heard multiple times that his father was horrible, his brothers were horrible, and Tamlin was the one over here who did not agree with slavery. He did not want to be a High Lord. He didn't like how things were being ran. Also, I think it was Tamlin at one point, Tamlin or Rhysand, one of them talks about that when you are becoming a High Lord or you're in line to be the next High Lord, you're getting all this High Lord training on how to be a diplomat, like how to do all the things you are supposed to as a High Lord. And we know that one, Tamlin was not getting that training. He was a war grunt. Two, he had no interest in ever taking this position. None. Did not want it whatsoever.
So he wasn't trying. He wasn't looking.
And then when his brothers were slain by Rhysand, and then his father was killed by Rhysand's father, along with his mother was also killed by Rhysand's father.
Right.
Tamlin was now in this position, clueless, like, oh my goodness, now I have to become a High Lord. I don't know anything about being a High Lord. I don't know how to take over this role. I don't know how to take over this position. He never had interest in it.
Right.
So I think that also plays on his ability to be the perfect High Lord, because he never had an interest or want in being that role. Where some people, you could say it's like in his DNA. I truly think like even though he was next in line by the cauldron, so to speak,
he never wanted it.
He never wanted it. And I think that plays a big role. And he says it again in Mist and Fury when him and Feyre get into this argument and he's doing all this paperwork and everything, and he's like, did you see why I never wanted this role? Like, why I never wanted to be a High Lord? I don't want to do this.
Right.
So,
yes. And so I think all of that background and trauma has caused him to kind of, you know, he clearly doesn't know how to handle his emotions. No. He's used to just being that war grunt, to just go into the beast mode, to just be that. He's not polished. He's not.
I don't imagine his father was very loving.
No.
Right. I don't imagine that. And he talks about his mom and dad being mates, like true mates. And that she just overlooked all the awful things that the father did. So I imagine if his father was abusive, which it sounds like he probably was, the mother just overlooked it, never stood up for her kids, kind of was like, well, this is how your father's raising you. And he was a really tough, militant man who gave no grace. So I only imagine, you know, Tamlin becoming this war grunt had to be the best of the best and was constantly trying to prove himself to get his father's love and acceptance.
And then fast forward, Amarantha comes, and he's got this,
older woman who's being really predatory, if you ask me, coming after him and being really creepy about it, because that was a family friend for years. Amarantha was a family friend they talked about for years, and then out of nowhere decides that she likes Tamlin. She thinks Tamlin's good looking, and it's like, I don't know, like you saw him as a child and you've watched him grow up and now you want to be with him. Like that's creepy. Yeah. That's very creepy.
But not to mention all of the trauma that comes after that with what she did to Prithian and then putting the blight on him and him having to have the masks and the curse and his powers weakened.
So Tamlin with Amarantha completely lost his ability to control anything. So he lost the ability he was trying his best to be the best High Lord for his people and was trying his best to control whatever he could and whatever he had the ability to control and establish some sort of control. Because Amarantha took the ability for him to control things away by taking away his power, the blight that came through with her. So she really damaged so much of Tamlin, I'm sure. And knowing that she was the one in control of his friends dying and every time he sent them over the border to potentially get killed.
Yeah. So all of them basically did.
Yeah.
One after another.
Well, not continuously, but a good bit of them died. But like Tamlin no longer had control over his people and the outcome of his people. It was literally at the mercy of Amarantha. And I think, you know, he didn't want to be a High Lord, so I'm sure his people were probably like, are you kidding me? We're getting this army grunt, and now he's our High Lord?
Right.
So I'm sure he had a sense to, like, prove himself to his people, and he probably wanted to do right. He seems like he's the kind of person he wants to just do the next right thing, and he doesn't always know how to do the next right thing, but his intentions are normally there. He thinks he's doing the right thing, while it may actually not be the right thing. He thinks he is.
And to that point, like, he... in the book as well, like, he talks about the fact that he sent those people over the border for 2 years. So 2 out of the 50 years he was doing it, and then he decided it wasn't worth it. And he talks about his compassion too, like in ACOTAR, where he's like Alice is telling Farah that like he didn't even want to have a girl fall in love with him because he knew what her fate would be.
Because Amarantha would be cruel and vicious to her.
The compassion in who he was in the first book and how he's described is not somebody that is evil or has ill intentions.
I think he's a very broken man. Very broken. He's, he was, just to overview that, and with his past, if you think about it, just a quick overview, he was thrown into a position he never wanted, nor was trained for. He had an abusive father, probably abusive older brothers who were just not the kindest to him. His mom, I would imagine, because she sat by idly and let all that stuff happen, just didn't really stick up for him when his father was being abusive. He then lost his whole family. He then became High Lord of a court he had no intentions on ever doing, got thrust into a role he had no idea how to execute. He then was kidnapped, and while he's trying to do his very best and learning how to be a High Lord as he goes, He's now lost control of his court and people to an evil witch named Amarantha, solely because he will not be with her, and like she's like trying to own him as property, like because he won't sell himself, so to speak. He's now lost control. And I know you can look at the other side of the coin. Rhys essentially sold himself to protect his people, which very good on you, Rhysand, but I think, my body, my choice, I feel like I would not be 100% okay with. I would have a really hard time.
It's not a default response. Like, everybody has their own choices. And he shouldn't have had to.
He shouldn't have never had to be like, Amarantha's just evil. We know that.
Yeah.
She's just the worst.
We really hate her.
She's the worst.
She is a villain. She's a true villain. Like a terrible
Tamlin
person.
is just a victim of her villainhood.
Exactly.
So I think, and then think about that, Amarantha then the 50 years, Tamlin losing friends, Tamlin fighting off the blight to the best of his abilities.
Yes.
There was just a lot that Tamlin had to deal with, and then not to mention Under the Mountain, falling in love with Feyre, getting rid of Feyre.
Literally he probably never expected himself to actually have a girl fall in love with him, much like Beauty and the Beast. Where like the Beast just gave up at that point. He had given up, and Tamlin, I think, was at the very end of the 50 years. It was almost time up. Time was almost up. He did send, his comrade out, and it did work, and he got Feyre to come back. But I don't think he ever expected to actually fall in love with her,
or she him,
And I think, and she never told him that she loved him before he let her go either. So he probably thought to himself, like, maybe she loves me, maybe she doesn't. I love her. I'm gonna let her go. It doesn't matter. She doesn't have to say it back to me. And like, I don't understand why people can hate him when he's shown that he can be good, and he's shown that he can be compassionate. He has a lot of growth.
To be a Team Edward, Team Jacob of Tamlin and Rhysand. I think we can all agree Rhysand is the better match for Feyre.
100%.
100%. There's no way you can argue it, because that is a hill I will die on. Tamlin is not the better match for Feyre.
Agree completely.
No chance, no way. But I don't believe Tamlin's unlovable. I believe Tamlin just needs to find the right person to love him.
Yes. Yes. And so, like, I think when it comes to, abusive, obsessive, by the time we get post Under the Mountain, where it's 3 months of him, watching her, and then he watches her die, and then they get back a month later, they're engaged, but his life is in shambles, his court's in shambles, Prythian is all screwed up, and all the while, he's going out there trying to figure out how to break this week-long bond with Rhysand, because Rhysand at the time is the worst person in Prythian, according to everybody that's not in Velaris. So, he's got so much pressure, so much stress, and he just saw his girl die.
And if you think about it, with Tamlin,
and the human aspect.
Yeah, she was once a human, and she was very breakable. And I think in Feyre's defense, when she was turned High Fae, she had so many emotions were now heightened that weren't heightened as a human. Now she's a Fae. And yeah, Tamlin definitely needed to give her more attention there, but Tamlin has so much going on his plate. He was restoring his court that was under Amarantha's reign for 50 years, and we realize, and Lucien talks about it at one point, that his court, literally, while some of them were under the mountain, not all of them were, and they were in these war camps where sometimes they were forgotten to be fed, and they were eating each other, and they were picking apart each other. Like, that is, to bring those people, after dealing with that lifestyle for 50 years, to bring them back to normalcy and try to create this normal environment and normal court. Tamlin has a lot on his shoulders for someone who, again,
never wanted to be High Lord.
And doesn't know how to really lead.
And so I think it just became a default response of, this is how it was done before, this is how I'm going to do it now, just to get stability and structure into my court. Because this is not, he probably thought, because everybody's like, oh, well, he's so mean because he was, trying to get tithes from people and not making exceptions. But it's like, to him, he was thinking, as if I can just get everything stable,
or just back to normal. He doesn't know how to fix.
Yeah, but the instability is an important part. He's like, I want to just get everything stable, and it's not a good time to start enacting different changes and making all these different exceptions. not that, of course, the compassionate human would be like, yes, of course, like, let's not make people who don't have the funds to do so pay. But, like, in his situation, he's just like, I'm not going to deviate from status quo right now when everything is chaos.
And he has to maintain a united, strong front, and that's what his people need. Like, his people are looking for a leader, and he's trying to be a leader. And he doesn't know how to lead compassionately, I don't believe. I think the only example he ever had of leadership was his father.
Right.
That's the only form of leadership.
And can we talk about Farrah's age and inexperience?
That is also true. And there was that comment everyone brings up where Rhys was so okay with making Farrah High Lady of the Night Court, and Tamlin said there's no such thing, and he wouldn't. And I think to that point, it's, bear in mind, Farrah is 19 years old, and she can't read.
Yeah.
And while she becomes wonderful, and she's a great High Lord for the Night Court, Rhys at this point has taught her how to read, and that she's also Rhys's mate. And I think that plays a huge difference, too.
Yeah, but also, like, oh man, I've lost my point. Farrah,
she's 19 and she can't read. So imagine if, you know, you have someone, the President of the United States, and we're going to vote in someone who's 19 years old, who cannot read, who they're not from America, they're not from our country or something like that, because Farrah's not from Prythian. She doesn't know anything about Prythian, the laws, the rules. She knows nothing about being Fae and what it's really like and growing up Fae. And I would, you know, have a hard time having someone who knows nothing about our country, nothing about our laws, our regulations, who can't read and is only 19 years old when some of these fairies are 500 to 1,000 years old.
Yes, and I just remembered my point. There's a point in Mist and Fury in the beginning chapters where literally Farrah is asking Tamlin, well, what am I going to be called? And she literally says, I don't want to be High Lady. Like, I don't want that title. And Tamlin, he's like, oh, it doesn't even exist. In my head, he was saying
there's never been one before.
There's never been one before, so don't worry about it.
Yeah,
to him, he was like, you just told me you don't want this title? Well, there's never been one anyway, so don't worry about it. You don't have to worry.
Mm-hmm.
You won't be. Like, it's not like she begged him to be High Lady or was like, oh, I want to. She never said, Tamlin, I want to be High Lady.
Yes.
Never. And I think that it would have been a different conversation if she would have said that.
Mm-hmm.
But she didn't. She said, I don't want to be it. And he says, don't worry, there isn't anyone anyway.
Yes. So.
What? And everybody gets so mad at him.
And I think because, so when you're someone's mate, you're like equal and matched in all the right ways. So I think Rhysand taught her how to read, and Rhysand really introduced her to the Night Court, where Tamlin did only show her bits and pieces of the Spring Court. Rhys really showed her the Hewn City, Valaris.
Yes.
You know, he showed him, and like the Illyrian war camps. Yeah. It was just, she saw all of the Night Court, and also she is Rhys's mate and matched in every which way, like the perfect match for Rhys.
Right.
So I think it made sense. Like,
it was doomed from the start.
Yeah.
Her and Tamlin
were doomed from the start.
It was not Cauldron blessed. It was doomed from the start. They weren't compatible. Like,
and the fact that Ianthe was going to marry them, let's be honest, she is just as evil as they come.
Yeah.
So,
and she was also, everybody forgets too, like, Tamlin had Ianthe there because he didn't know what the hell he was doing and he needed help. Unfortunately, he chose a person who he didn't realize was horrible. And she was also playing, you know,
her pawns. She was playing the game.
Moving her pawns around and playing him. And so, like, he was already kind of at a disadvantage, too, because he was getting advice from somebody who was not good.
Yep, absolutely.
But he was but that was him trying, and he didn't know Ianthe was going to be what she was.
And also, if we can show just another compassionate side of Tamlin, look at everything that happened with Lucien.
Mm-hmm.
How he essentially saved Lucien from his brothers and father. And
made him an emissary.
And then also, Lucien's eye situation, Tamlin, I believe, was the one who found the person to kind of
give him
an eye after everything happened with Amarantha.
And, like, also the fairy wings scene.
The blue fairy from the Summer Court who got their wings chopped off by Amarantha. how compassionate Tamlin was during that moment.
He also took Alice in and saved her boys, gave her a position and a job when she'd asked for it.
Just to protect her nephews.
That is not somebody that is evil.
Yeah, he did a lot of things, I think.
Set up Feyre's entire family?
Yes, he did. He made sure Feyre's entire family was financially stable.
Way beyond financially stable.
Yeah, way beyond. And even when Feyre's sisters and everything happened with them, with Hybern, Ianthe was the one who sold them out. Lucien and Tamlin were not involved in her sisters whatsoever.
No, they never would have.
No, and Tamlin's even like, this wasn't part of the deal. Like, he's literally fighting, like, don't do this.
Like begging them.
Yeah. Like, don't do this, because he really, he knows it's not right. And also, he doesn't believe in slavery, which I think is really big, coming off of everything that happened in Prythian, how there are people who still believe in slavery over there, and Tamlin, even though he's young, and young in the sense of, like, he's not, like, Baron, like, Lucien's father from the Autumn Court, he doesn't believe in slavery, and he's standing alone, he has people like Baron who are much older than him, wiser than him, and he's willing to go toe-to-toe for things that he believes is quote-unquote right. Like, along with his moral compass. He knows, like, slavery is wrong.
Right.
And then, to talk about the whole prisoner situation, didn't you say, you made a comment about how in the first book, Feyre talks about...
Oh, yes. So in the first book, Feyre literally is talking to, I forget who, Lucien or, no, Tamlin maybe?
It
Yeah, it
was Tamlin.
was Tamlin. And she literally says, you've never made me feel like a prisoner. And so how does it go from that change of, you've never made me feel like a prisoner, to you've made me feel like I'm a prisoner now in A Court of Mist and Fury. And I think that the change was the fact that he saw her die. Her neck was snapped. Under the Mountain was insane. And also the instability of the court at the time. He knew people were going to be after her. He knew that the other High Lords were going to notice that something was missing. And he went about it completely wrong. I agree. I think that he made a mistake. I think that him hiding her powers from her, him not giving her the full story,
locking her in the house, he was doing, like, while he had so many other things on his plate to handle, he was doing the best he could to protect her, and his mind was just like, everything he did was out of love for Feyre. So he was like, this is the only way I know how to protect her, is by
keeping her in the place where I know she's safe. Yeah.
Where she was gonna go, she ended up going crazy, and she didn't respond well.
Yes.
But that's all he knew in the time, because he had so many other things going on in his life. Like, they talk about still fighting off the other evil creatures, like the Naga.
Yeah. There was a lot of residual things to do
after Amarantha. Like, just because Amarantha was dead doesn't mean everything was fine. You talk about, like, Lucien got knocked off his horse, I think, by a Naga or something like that.
Yes.
And,
that was talked about.
Yeah, they're still kind of dealing with the residual effects of
And mind you, it's only been a couple months. Like, it's not a lot of time, and everything is so crazy unstable.
And we're still not fully back to it, and we went through a pandemic for 3 years, so I can't imagine 50 years.
Yes.
So, and America, the world is still kind of adjusting from a 3-year-long pandemic, and we're still kind of like, where they had a 50-year-long something.
And I think, too, like, the outburst as well that happens, which thank God Feyre was able to protect herself with her magic, do not excuse the outburst whatsoever, where he's not being able to tame and control his powers and he lets it loose. It did happen after she was gone to Rhysand at this point, and I think that this was a really bad breaking point for Tamlin in this
feeling
moment.
Like he's once again lost control. Like, he's losing control. Like, Amarantha was in control of him this entire time, like, for 50 years. So, while he lost control of his court, because of Amarantha, she's dead, and he's feeling like he's starting to regain his control again. And now this bargain with Rhysand, which he cannot break, is now putting him back in that PTSD position of, I'm losing control again, I'm losing control again, I'm losing control again, something really bad is going to happen, like, he's going to start losing his friends, and, like, he's thinking next in line, like, something like an Amarantha situation is going to happen.
Right.
While it's very different, and we see it from Feyre's point of view, where we see Rhysand is not this evil, horrible person, Tamlin doesn't see it like that because
That segues into one of the other most debated topics, which is like what he did with Hybern and how he got to that point of what he did with Hybern. And that is, I think, the perfect reasoning and segue into it. This is what I tried to explain to people because they're like, well, we started not liking Tamlin in the beginning of Mist and Fury because he was this and that, but we really hated him when he stepped out of that light and saw him and Lucian capturing everybody with Hybern and the Cauldron and all of this and the queens. And I look at them and I'm saying, and I think to myself, do you not remember that Rhysand to the entire world has for his entire reign like perpetuated this narrative that he is the most evil, cutthroat, ruthless, doesn't give a crap about anybody person in the whole world. His court is the court of nightmares, for freaking sake. And so Tamlin, call it denial, call it this, whatever. I think it's maybe denial in the fact of Farrah leaving him, but it's not denial in the fact of Rhysand being a good person. I think he genuinely told himself and believed that he needed to save Farrah because Farrah was under Rhysand's control, because Rhysand has mind powers. He's a Demati, so he can get inside people's head, and he didn't know that Farrah had been training. She left that out. She left out those parts when she was telling Tamlin and Lucian what happened.
She didn't tell them, I learned how to read. Mind you, he gets a letter from Farrah. She writes him a letter. Like, the girl who cannot read writes him a letter.
And it's a very simple, short nothing.
So, but also, I'm sure he's thinking, well, Farrah can't read. How is she writing me this letter? This is definitely not from her.
And a letter can come from anybody. That's the whole point. Like, it could have been anybody sending that letter. And I think it's just so insane to me that Farrah literally was like, done, like, just sent him a letter and was like, okay, I'm done with you. She moved on so quickly,
But in fairness, it's because Rhys was her main.
And I know that, but still,
I know.
But then we have to think about Tamlin's perspective, where it's like, this person I was about to marry, this person who sacrificed so much to come save me under the mountain, literally risked her own life for me, is now just gonna write me a letter, and that's it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fair.
That literally said, I'm not coming back, pretty much?
Yes.
And we don't even know if it got delivered. Like, it just kind of just sent it. It's like, it's insane that that didn't get like an in-person closure
conversation, which probably should have.
So it kind of just probably fueled him up more. And then Lucian sees her, and she's playing the character. She's playing the character.
Evil, like, dark wings, all this stuff. And I'm sure Lucian goes back to Tamlin and he's like, oh my gosh, Rhys has her under his control because this is not the Feyre we know.
And so he's thinking, oh, this girl risked everything to save me. I'm going to risk everything to save her. And so he risks his entire court freaking with Hybern when he doesn't even agree with them. And he admits later in the books, like, didn't want to have anything to do with them. He didn't want to help them.
He just felt like he had nowhere else to turn.
No other choice. So really, everybody's all pissed off that he did that, but he did that out of so much love and trying to save her from Rhysand, who he thought was terrible. I mean, this is the guy who used to be his friend, and then both of their families killed each other.
And then he delivered someone's head in the first book and put it on the statue.
Like, it's too much. And so, like, I just don't know why people can't, like, step out of their shoes for a second, just look at it from a different perspective. Like, they say, oh, Tamlin and Lucian, they're so evil, they just walked out of the light, and they're like, well, what happened to her sisters?
Mm-hmm. That was 100% Ianthe. They wanted nothing to do with it. Feyre literally says she fed Ianthe all the information about her sisters for months.
So honestly, yeah, it's like,
and Tamlin had no idea he was going to use them. It was Ianthe's doing. Ianthe was a little snake that entire time. She's the worst.
She is the worst, which is why what Feyre did to her was so amazing.
Oh, good.
Loved
on the
that.
Weaver, good on the Weaver.
But can we talk about the beginning of the third book?
That hurt.
Here's my point with Feyre.
I did not like Feyre in the beginning of the third book.
I know she was hurting, and I know it's for her, it's probably like she blamed Tamlin for what happened. But to play somebody's heart like that and to make him believe and he was trying so hard during that whole time, and to just, it's one thing to take him down and cut him down to size because you're mad at, you know, the choices that he made, but she affected hundreds, thousands of people in the spring court.
That's what
his
really
whole
hurt
court.
me, because she, for the longest time, was identifying herself as like, my people, these people.
This is my court, my high lord, my people.
Yeah, and she was loving these people, and she was seeing them during the tithe and everything, being like, I want to take care of them, I want to help them. She was offering to help them multiple times. After, when her and Lucian, she wanted to go help rebuild cities and rebuild towns, and she really wanted to like take care of these people, and she was telling them like, these are my people, and like, she's so compassionate, but out of her own revenge pettiness to take down Tamlin, I can't imagine how many people were then displaced from their home, which they could have been in the spring court for thousands of years, and their generations and generations, and they have now been displaced from their court that they identify in, that they were born into.
Yes.
And now they had to move because by her doing so, took down everything.
Yeah.
And put it in a really, like, just destroyed the spring court.
And can we talk about what she did with Lucian? I think that was so messed up that she destroyed, like, their friendship and made it seem like her and Lucian had a thing, and just played Lucian like a fiddle, and just hurt him so much. And I just
hurt Tamlin, because Tamlin was, like, second guessing his friendship with Lucian. So at this point, this man
too much.
Has now, again, everything that happened with Amarantha. So we go back.
His whole family. His whole family.
His whole life. His whole family. Everything that happened with Amarantha. Now trying to rebuild his kingdom. Again, does not want to be a High Lord. Does not know how to be a High Lord.
Loses the love of his life to his worst mortal enemy.
Then
enemy.
Yeah. And then goes, and the man who helped slay his whole family, which I get it. Rhysand also was the one who killed, Tamlin's dad brothers killed Rhysand's mom and sister.
Yes.
But in my opinion, and this is something I always live by, is an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind.
Very true.
So, I think that was a Hannah Montana quote, maybe. I literally think it was on Hannah Montana.
Best of both.
Yeah, and I heard it. I think Billy Ray Cyrus said it. He's like, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, Miles. And then you're just like, that's a great quote.
I mean, it is
forever. But
revenge doesn't get you anywhere. It just gets more. It just
pain begets
pain.
Yes.
Hurt.
Yes. So, and I'm sure Tamlin, having a father who was a High Lord and two older brothers, was probably not able to defend Rhysand's mother and sister.
Yeah, that's the next debated topic.
Which is
wait. Yeah, we'll go to that in a second. But
so he has all these different things working against him that I'm sure when he went to turn to the King of Hybern, it really was an absolute last-ditch effort. And then after he did that, and he essentially probably felt like he hit his lowest of his low peak, he's like, okay, now I can work to rebuild. And now Feyre's playing mind games where he's thinking the one person who has stood by him forever, which is Lucian, the only like family, if you think about it, he has left. He's now starting to feel like his family's turning against him.
Yep. It's just so cruel.
I was not a fan of what Feyre did to Tamlin. I think there was, and then in hindsight, it really messed
hard
them
for me
up.
to read that.
They just as like a person to person, I was like, I just thought of the bigger picture on what was happening to everyone else during that time.
The collateral damage.
Yeah, that was really coming, which we saw the collateral damage was he had no armies to help the War of Hybern.
Yep.
He had nothing.
His armies abandoned him. They didn't want to work for him anymore.
Nope.
People turned against him because Feyre made him out to be this and that.
So then the spring court was no longer like guarded and protected. It was an easy way in for Hybern to just come swoop right in and use that as like a line of like the right to attack at the border and the wall.
Right.
So really, I mean, that was a really hard. And again, the second book I was really enjoying Feyre, and I was like, yeah, girl, like I love seeing your development, your growth.
Yeah.
Like, I love seeing you love yourself and fall in love with yourself and really discover who you are and your powers.
Yes.
And I was living for all things Feyre in the second book, and on top of her falling in love with Rhysand, I was like,
beautiful.
Absolutely
beautiful
story. And then when the third book came, I was like, you just killed me.
Yes.
You just broke my heart, Farrah, because
you've allowed revenge and pettiness
and hate.
and
Your
hate.
heart.
Yeah, hate.
You
Basically, it's
allowed so
hate.
much hate in your
You
heart.
allowed hate to take over.
Yeah.
And that never ends well. I mean, it really just doesn't. And it just hurts so many people around you. And so now you have this broken man who's even more, he was already broken.
Yes.
Now he's just basically like, what am I even living for at this point? And then people, you see him in the High Lords meeting and he's mean to Farrah, but I'm like, you know what? Like, I was so excited to see him in that meeting. I was like, Tamlin's going to show up and I can't wait to see this. And I mean, I just took it for what it was. Like, obviously, you shouldn't say mean things to people, and that's not the way to go. But, like, I also was like, you know what? She destroyed his entire court and his friendship. He has nothing now.
She's
all because he loved this girl.
Yeah. He loved her, and everything he did for her was out of, in his mind, everything he did was out of an act of love. But we all know he just couldn't love for the best because Rhysand was for me.
Right.
It's for me.
It was an impossible situation.
It was an impossible situation, and I think you could probably say the same thing, but when I look back at some of my exes, and some of them are really, I don't know why, like, I was with them, and you think back at these relationships.
They're lessons.
All a lesson. And I look back at my past relationships and how they've hurt me, and the trauma I carried from these relationships that I had to then deal with, and everything that they did to me.
Right.
I've found my Rhysand now. I have found my mate, and he is amazing and everything I've ever wanted and dreamed of in a human, and I never thought I could find someone who was literally my puzzle piece, who knew me so well that I can now look back on all the people I've dated who've cheated on me, who've hurt me, who've mentally messed me up, and I can look back at them and just say, I want nothing but the best for you. Because I have found such peace and such happiness in my current relationship that I'm like, truly, I want nothing but good things for you.
Yes.
Thank you for being a part of my story. You've done a whirlwind on me. I have no desire to ever have any kind of connection with you whatsoever, but ultimately, by what happened with you and all the things you've done to me, it's led me to where I am now and who I am with now.
Right.
So I look at it as, I'm like, I wish you nothing but the best. I want to see great things happen for you. Have a wonderful life. Please don't involve me in your life anymore, by all means, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, I'm really happy. And I think
I would love to see Farrah get to that point
of just
with
being,
Tamlin.
yes.
Like,
yeah.
we're not gonna be anything, but I wish you the best and I hope the best for you.
Yeah, like, thank you for being a part of my story. Thank you for,
teaching me things.
Well, thank you for bringing me to Prithia and not killing me. But thank you for jump starting, like, because, I'm sure Rhysand probably would have found her
maybe,
eventually.
but she might not have ever been a high fae.
Yeah,
then she would have died, and then there would have been nothing.
That's true, because she'd be human.
Yeah, because without the cauldron or all the 7 high lords, she wouldn't be a fae.
Yeah.
So it would, like, honestly,
everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
And everyone's a part of your story for a reason. And I really just wholeheartedly feel like, well, Farrah, I would love to see her get to a place like, I have my mate. I have my beautiful baby boy.
Yes.
Tamlin, I want you to find happiness, and I will see you at our court meetings when we have to be high lords and high ladies together.
Yeah.
But beyond that, find happiness. I am so at peace with my life and my journey.
Yeah. And I honestly would like to see that for Rhysand and Tamlin as well. I would like them to kind of mend some things in their relationship. And I think that can happen when Tamlin tells his side of the story with the segue into people talk about that Tamlin allowed for Rhysand's family to be killed. I think that if Sarah J. Maas wrote it in a way of they finally have that conversation and you get to finally hear Tamlin's side about what happened.
Because I'm sure he was...
I am certain that he did not.
Tamlin was not big on slavery. And also, Rhysand was the one sneaking around helping Tamlin fight. Like, learn how to fight.
Taught him Illyrian skills.
Yeah, they were friends. So I'm sure Tamlin was not like, yeah,
Let's go
my
kill
dad
your family.
my dad feels really threatened by you and I, so he's gonna try to kill you, Rhysand, and I'm okay with him killing you and your mother and your sister, who are totally innocent in all this. So I'm sure that he was very I'm sure he probably did not agree. He might have tried to fight back, and I imagine his dad and brothers kind of maybe overruled him, didn't give him an option, didn't give him a choice. His hands were literally tied.
Yeah.
So I imagine that happened. And, in that moment, I'm sure Tamlin could have easily battled it out with Rhysand, and vice versa. Rhysand could have battled it out with Tamlin, but I think they just had this understanding, like, there's no one left. Like, we both just suffered this.
Yeah, we're done with killing.
Oh,
well, even Rhysand says, like, I'm done, like, I'm not going to kill Tamlin. And he's tried to stop his dad from killing Tamlin because he's like, I'm done with the death. There's no more death. We're done. We're good here. Mm-hmm. So, like, but they were mortal enemies after that. I mean, they just didn't like each other. And then Rhysand obviously created that narrative after that. So, that's kind of what happened. Yeah, so the next one is...
And then also Tamlin did not keep his mom and sister's wings. We find that out that the dad had them up on display in the library, and Tamlin was like, that's not right.
Because he didn't like it.
He didn't agree. Nope, he didn't agree. He was like, I think, didn't he have them burned or something?
Yeah, he said he had them burned.
He had them burned, which was more or less like, he was kind of like, I don't agree with this. This is disgusting.
Yeah. Like, I guess he could have given them back, but at that point, he's like, I don't like Rhysand either at this point. Like, Rhysand and I are not friends.
My mother.
Yeah.
And my brothers.
Right.
And my father. Which maybe he was probably okay with his brothers and father being killed.
But not his mother.
Yeah, I think that probably.
But Rhysand did say, like, he didn't want the mother to be killed. That was his dad.
It was just really, like,
tragedy.
A big tragedy all around for everyone. They both had insufferable losses. Like, massive, just unimaginable losses Tamlin and Rhysand faced, and then which ultimately led them to losing their friendship, and then Tamlin losing his friendship with Lucien. I would love for that to get back together because
yes, definitely.
Kills me.
They deserve to be friends.
They do.
And yeah,
that's Tamlin's only family.
It is. It's his only family, and like I would like to see Lucien go back to the Spring Court and them to mend things and all of that to happen.
Lucien to become a High Lord.
Lucien to become a High Lord of the Day Court. That's okay with me. I'm fine with that. It's okay.
I don't know if I want him to die.
Well, he has to make way for my boy Lucien, so we love Lucien.
Maybe Helion can take him under his wing and start training him to be a High Lord.
That would be awesome once he actually finds out that that's his son, which they need to reveal that already. Okay, the last big point that people make is that Tamlin did nothing to help Farah under the mountain.
So, Lucien even says this, that Tamlin is remaining stoic and showing no emotion, because if he shows any sort of emotion, like when Amarantha does some certain form of torture, she's going to know that bothers Tamlin more. So she's going to then focus on that and amplify it and make Farah's time even worse for her. And I will give Rhysand credit that he was like, okay, Amarantha's going to literally torture and abuse this girl. Let me take her and make her feel and assume that she's being tortured and abused by giving her that wine, making her do all these embarrassing things while she's drunk.
Right.
Which is better than the physical breaking of the bones torture that Amarantha was going to cause her.
Right.
Because at least her bones are no longer broken and she has the ability to fight and continue on in her battles. She's only was getting drunk and embarrassing herself, and also Rhysand was trying to put fire for Tamlin. But anyway, I just think that he was doing his best to remain completely emotionless. And also, Tamlin was under incredibly strict watch. Yeah. Lucien says, Tamlin's not going to come. Tamlin is, being watched like a hawk right now. Tamlin has no freedom whatsoever. Everyone's watching.
And he made his best judgment at the time, which is, I'm just going to make things worse. If I react, if I try, if I do anything, it's just going to make it worse for Farah. Yep, I don't have any movement to do so. The best thing that I can do is just be as stoic as possible.
Yep. And
And Rhysand had a little bit more freedom too. Rhysand wasn't
so
on
much more freedom.
he was her screw buddy, you know, like they just got on together, but he had been doing that for 50 years, so he had a lot more rapport with her. She let him go to Calamine, like so many different things. He had a much looser leash
than Tamlin did. He also had more magic to use and all that kind of stuff, versus Tamlin really was like stuck on her side most of the time. Like she had an eye on him 24/7, so Tamlin had no leeway. He also had no magic.
Yeah.
So it's not like he could use his magic to kill her. He didn't have magic to use.
Right.
So
right.
I mean, there really wasn't much.
People kind of get mad at the scene where it's like, oh, he had one scene to pull her away and all he did was make out with her.
But like,
it's like, what else was he supposed to do?
I mean, how was he going to escape this under the mountain tunnel system when you have the adder, you have guards everywhere? He has no magic, and she's a human.
Right.
Like, how was he supposed to let her escape? Because then, if she tried to escape and they caught her, she'd be killed outright.
Yeah.
And or something would happen to Lucian when
people say, "Oh, all he cared about was lust. All he cared about was like lusting after her."
It's called a love language. Some people's love languages are physical touch, and that might be his love language.
Yeah.
Because I imagine if he wasn't given a lot of that love and attention as a child, growing into who he is as a man today, I'm sure he pines for physical touch and physical intimacy. Because he might not have had that as a child. I don't imagine he grew up in an incredibly loving home.
Right.
After we hear what his father was like. So, I think Tamlin's love language is, physical touch. Maybe that's why he was so all about that with Feyre, and that's where they connected the best. Like, Feyre even said that.
Yeah.
Her and Tamlin, they connected the best, and they had the best emotions. Like, they wasn't talking, it was when they were, like, intimate with each other, is when they were the most connected. So how does Tamlin know that they feel the most connected, and how can he make that, just remind her, because he's been emotionless this whole time.
Yes.
He has given her nothing that he cares. Not a thing, not a glance, not a word, nothing. So how does Tamlin show, like, I still love you, and if this is my last moment with you, because if I try to help you escape, she's going to kill you.
Yeah.
If you try to escape, she's going to kill you. And she also might try to kill Lucian just to get back at me.
Right.
So,
she almost did in the one freaking
when Feyre would not give up his name.
Right.
But when Feyre wouldn't give up Lucian, or Feyre wouldn't give up her name, and Lucian wouldn't give up Feyre's name. That's what it was. Amarantha almost had Lucian killed. Again, also almost had him killed in a trial. So she's really hurting Tamlin where she knows she can.
Any way that she can with the two people who he loves most in this world.
Yep. So I really wholeheartedly believe that
that's why he did that.
Yeah, why he was the way he was. And thank God she did have Rhys. I will say, thank God.
Oh yeah, of course we stand Rhysand.
We love
support
Rhysand.
I think that was beautiful growth. I think that it was amazing twist. I think that that whole storyline was great. I just don't hate Tamlin.
No, I feel very bad for Tamlin. I find him to be a very broken character.
Right. So here's the other thing too is like my notes too. I put down that everybody can excuse and understand and dismiss and forgive every single other character's trauma,
like Nesta,
but not Tamlin.
I love Nesta.
Yeah, but not Tamlin. And like, why is he the only one that gets to be called all these bad nicknames like tampon and tampax? Like, that's like so derogatory and mean for a character that really just doesn't deserve it. But like, we don't have those things for everybody else.
And mind you, he risked his life to save Feyre, Elaine, and Azriel when in the Highborn war camp. And the random human girl literally used the last jolt of his power to like push Feyre through.
Yep.
And very well knew like I could die. Yes. I could die right now.
Yep. Because he still cared. Because he still had that amount of compassion. Because it wasn't just an obsession. It was love.
It was love, and also it was, I want to see her okay, and
no matter, and after everything she did,
and he really wasn't siding with Highborn.
No,
he was playing the double, like he was a spy.
He was double agent. He admitted to that. Like he's like, I just did this so that I could save you, and then I was gonna dip out and like betray them. So it's like he never had those bad intentions to begin with. He really just wanted to save Feyre. It was all about her.
Yep.
It's always been about her.
Yeah, and so also, I mean,
Wanna love.
her sisters are high fae with her. She'll never have to worry about burying her sisters early as humans. Nesta gets to be
that's a win-win.
Nesta gets to be with Cassian.
Thank you, Tamlin.
Yeah, well, Ianthe.
I know, but like they set them up. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah,
Ianthe. Whatever. I don't want to say that. But.
I think you don't get me wrong. Them going to the cauldron was definitely like traumatic as all heck. Yeah. Like we hear what it was like from like Nesta and Elaine talking about it wasn't like a burning chill, it was a cold chill that just sucked the life out of you and all this stuff happens.
Yes.
And that has to be horribly traumatic. But you know, Nesta in the long run is gonna be with Cassian.
Right.
You don't know who Elaine is gonna be with.
That's an episode for later.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
But you know, your looking Feyre gets to be with her sisters for the rest of eternity. Their immortal life together.
Yeah.
Was it fair? Probably not.
No.
But
no.
I mean,
but it
glass half full kind of.
But
people.
everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and this is why Sarah J. Maas wrote this story the way she wrote this story.
But can we just also one more point here? The fact that Rhysand and Silver Flames kept the pregnancy, like the wings killing Feyre, a secret from her, and made everyone around her lie to her. But yet he's still fine
because he loves her and he was giving grace while he.
Why can't we extend the same grace to Tamlin? I'm extending that grace to Rhysand as well. I don't think he's a bad person.
No.
I think he made a mistake. I think he thought he was doing something right. I think it was wrong. I think Feyre 100% deserved to know. And like, kudos to freaking Nesta, even though it was the wrong intentions. I jumped up and down like, yes, Nesta, and Feyre handled it beautifully. But why does Rhysand get grace and Tamlin doesn't?
Yeah. I would love to see a book written from, I say this like the beginning of Mist and Fury. I would love to see it from Tamlin's point of view.
Yes.
On everything he's dealing with and tackling and going through after Amarantha's rule. And just so we can understand why he is the way he is. Like, I just want to know the why. And I think also I've taken umpteen amounts of classes on psychology, so I have a very, very strong psychology background. And I think that's why I really enjoy characters like Tamlin, because I'm like, you're not evil.
Right.
And also, every villain has a rhyme and reason on why they are the way they are. Yeah. Besides Ianthe. I'm going to be honest, I cannot find one redeemable quality about her. And I just think she was partially demonic. I think she's supposed to be blessed by the mother, by whatever, but I think she actually was half demon. Because I'm struggling right now. As someone who can always find a rhyme or reason, strong psych background on why you are the way you are.
I mean, hopefully she grows, and hopefully she does get better, and hopefully
she's dead.
Oh, did she die?
Ianthe?
I thought she didn't die.
No, Ianthe is dead. The Weaver killed her.
I forgot about that. Look at me, super fan. Not really. Was that the third book? Yeah, that had to be the third book then. In the war?
Yeah, Ianthe dies.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Because Feyre goes in disguised as Ianthe into the Hybern war camp.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm rereading Mist and Fury right now in the dramatic version. So, and rereading it, I'm just like, obviously I'm in love with Rhysand and Feyre, but I'm still just like,
yeah. So Ianthe,
there's more to the story, and that's I think the big thing too is like we've never been inside Tamlin's head. We've never seen from his perspective. We've never gotten it written that way. We've gotten Nesta's head, Feyre's head, Rhys's head, and Cassian's head. We've never gotten in Tam's world.
Sarah J. Maas, can we just give her a shout out for creating such beautiful, in-depth.
The fact that we can have an hour conversation about
one
Tamlin.
character, just one character. We could do deep dives on every different character.
And he wasn't even in a lot of the series. He only was mostly in the first book.
Yeah, like Sarah J. Maas, you have really created some beautiful characters with so much depth and so much more to them than surface level.
But please, for the love of God, give my man Tam a redemption story, please.
Yeah.
Ugh. I just need it so much. I know he could be so much more.
He could be so much more. And I would love to see a redemption story because he is not a Hybern villain. He's not like a Ianthe, Amarantha villain. He's not one of those. So and I know everyone's like, he got his redemption when he saved Feyre from the Hybern war camp. I would love to see him become so much more than that.
Yeah, because we even see him in Silver Flames. He's still just a beast roaming around. He's lost. He's a lost soul. He's broken. He needs...
Valerie, you have to bring up, she has this whole plot and theory because A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first book, is very Beauty and the Beast-esque related.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna let you take it away. You got this.
No, yeah. Well, I think that honestly, like the first book isn't like that. Amarantha isn't the curse. It's Farah. Farah's the curse. Farah's the one who kind of the witch in the story, and now he's more beast-like than ever. He's roaming, and the only thing that's going to bring him back is his redemption story and finding love again and falling in love again.
Love with himself.
Yes, it could be
love with his title.
Yeah, falling in love with himself, or not falling in love, but yeah, loving himself again, becoming a whole person again. And then I would love to see him find love as well and be able to trust somebody again and be able to fall in love with his right person. I wanted him to find his mate. I think that is his journey now. And so I think that Farah was the one who cursed him in the end. Triggered the curse. Right.
So like this downfall of him, and now we get to see him rise back up, and I would love to see him fall in love maybe in multiple forms, whether that be himself, fall in love with his title as High Lord, and learning that there is not one way, and that awful way that your dad showed you how to be a High Lord is not the only way to be a High Lord, and there's multiple ways to rule a compassionate leader.
Yeah.
So falling in love with himself, his title, a person,
embracing everything,
and falling in love with his own story and not letting his trauma become who he is and dictate his emotions.
Rejecting it, growing from it, becoming a better person from it.
To see that.
And really for him and Farah and Rhysand to get on a really good healthy
Because I think
standpoint.
he would need to apologize to Farah, like, yeah, my trauma, like, I should not have taken it out on you.
Yes.
And
but he doesn't say will.
Doesn't
he say will? Yeah, he does apologize.
He does apologize, but I think it would be a nice moment for him to be like, I should not have ever taken that out on you.
Yeah.
Like, it's a me problem, not a you problem, and you suffered at the end of my trauma, like my actions, you suffered from my actions.
Yes, 100%.
And then I also think Farah would need to apologize to him and be like, I am truly sorry for ruining your court.
Yep.
And the people I thought were my people at one point. Like, it's not just apologizing to Tamlin, it's apologizing to the people that looked up to her as a leader.
Yep.
They looked up to her to lead them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, you are like cauldron blessed. You are the one reborn, the curse breaker. They had so much faith in her. And that she just kind of did them wrong and really, and I love Farah, and you see in Silver Flames the grace that she can extend to people.
Right.
And how she can understand, like, Nesta and everything, and just she's always looking out as, like, let's take a step back.
Yes.
And let's also just look at this from a broader point of view. Like,
she's grown a lot.
She's grown so much. That would be a great episode, a whole deep dive on Farah's growth throughout the entire series.
Let us know if that's something you would like to see. But yeah, I think that
we can agree to disagree if you disagree with all these topics.
Yes, like please let us know what you think, and please let us know also if we've convinced you. Do you feel a little bit different about Tamlin?
If you think we're totally crazy and we have problems, and
do you hate us? Are we toxic?
I hope you don't think that way, because
we're honestly, at the end of the day, I think we just want to extend grace to others, and when we see growth and potential in people, and we can understand why they are the way they are, we think that with enough self-growth and therapy and self-reflection, you can become a better person, and love conquers all. It really does.
And it doesn't mean you're this inherently evil person. He doesn't have that inherent evilness. No. He's just, and again, it doesn't have to be Team Edward, Team Jacob, Team Tamlin, Team Rhysand. It's 100%. It will always be Team Rhysand.
It's Team Rhysand, but we love Tam.
Yeah, we don't hate it. We would love to see. I have a lot of empathy for him and compassion. We feel really bad for him. Like, there's been a lot in his life that you're like, oh, sugar. And I think also when you've been through it in your own life, like, I'm going to be completely honest, you've been through some stuff. And I think that you have, we've all been through things, but like, especially you can look at what it's like a broad overview of, you can really understand Tamlin, and you're really sitting there looking at where he came from and being like,
I get it.
I get it. And like, you're this lovely light of a person because you've done the work and you've done what you had to do to become this wonderful person. And I think that's where you can see, like,
Yeah.
You know,
and we're all still growing too.
We're all still learning and growing. And when you've been through things in your own life, and you know, you've been through traumas, you can look at someone else who you know is going through trauma or has been through traumas.
Yes.
And you can sit back and be like,
empathize with that.
Like, I want to see you get better. I really want that for you.
Yes.
And I want to see you heal because I've healed and I want that for you. Even though these are totally fictional characters and they don't exist. But my heart still goes out to them because, you know, when you heal and you see how good it is to heal from trauma, you just want that for other people. And you want to see all good things.
And maybe it is a fictional character, but I think it's a lesson in grace and compassion 100%. For all of us. If we can just look and try to understand each other deeper, like that's one thing that I really love to do is to get deep with people. And like, I want to find out what makes you tick. Why are you that way? Why do you have these thoughts? And like, have them come to the realization of things, and so that they can look in the mirror and self-reflect and say, oh, maybe, okay, this is why I have outbursts, or this is why I have controlling tendencies, or, you know, this is why I, you know, cut people out of my life easier, or I just shut down. Like, there's reasons why we are the way we are, and the only way to get better is to talk about it and to work through it. And I just don't think Tamlin,
please get a therapist for Tamlin. Like,
yes.
He needs a Tamlin. Like, he needs a therapist.
Tamlin
needs a therapist. So,
I would happily be his therapist, just saying.
Valerie, it would be a Harley Quinn situation where she falls in love with her patient. That's what would happen.
No, I am married. I love my husband. I promise I love my husband. But this book has got me in a chokehold. It is good, and
it's the characters. It's the depth.
I'm on a mission. The Spring Court. I mean, it's so beautiful, guys. Isn't it just gorgeous?
We're on a Tamlin redemption.
Tamlin redemption is my passion. It's my mission, and
that's her next tattoo.
Maybe it actually might be. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm hoping in the next book, in book 6, we really get some more of that, because in Silver Flames, Tamlin was just shown like a little bit, like, where Nesta and him, and I really liked Nesta's self-reflection, where she was like, I'm sitting here judging this man so harshly for stuff that he did, when look what I've done. And I'm like, that is it. Like, that is it. That is the self-reflection that we need to see, and might be happening in Tamlin, but we are just not getting to peer into his mind like we are with Nesta. We're getting to understand Nesta. We're getting to see
her growth. Oh, that's why I relate to Nesta.
If she can get a redemption, please. Right?
Yeah, Nesta's also, I just love her. I love her. I am such a Nesta. I'm a Cassian girly, but I'm also just a Nesta girly. Like, I just adore her. I love her story. I love her growth. She was not naturally good at anything. Like, she was just...
Excited. We'll do a Nesta growth episode as well.
Oh, that'd be a good
I
one.
know. Because we do kind of have to wrap this up. But I just wanted to say... no, we do not support abuse. No, we do not support, you know, toxic relationships. No. But yes, we support grace, and yes, we support compassion and growth in other people.
We just want to see everyone do well in life, and we can look past. We can see Tamlin has such potential to be so much more than what he is.
Right.
And we have seen so many good sides of Tamlin that we're like,
we know it's there.
Yeah, we know
it's there. I don't know what I am, really. I don't know. Because you're a Cassian girl. I really don't know what I am.
I'm such a Cassian girl.
I have no idea. Because I'm not a full Tam girl. Because I really love Rhysand as well. Like, I don't think they have to be, like, one or the other.
Can I make a prediction? I think when book 6 comes out, and I think Sarah J. Maas is going to write us a whole story on Azriel, I think she's going to become an Azriel girl. I have a gut feeling you are going to be an Azriel. I'm putting it out there. I mean, making statements. If Sarah J. Maas writes an Azriel story, I think Val is going to be Azriel, 100%. All in. Like, I'm a Cassian girly. I think you're going to be an Azriel. I have a gut feeling about this.
Well, I'm excited to see if that comes true, because honestly, he's been on the back burner for me for a while. But I have recently looked at some of the artwork, and my goodness, the artwork for Az is chef's kiss. I love it.
I think you love a troubled soul.
I think I do.
Okay, we gotta wrap this episode up.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I just want to help people get out of their trauma. I want to help them get better, but also I wouldn't be mad if I ended up with love him. And the blonde and green eyes. I love green eyes. Green eyes are my weakness. I love green eyes. I love green and all things sunny and spring and happy and cheery. And I just feel like spring is rebirth. It's renewal. It's just fresh
Growth.
It's growth. And we're going to see that growth. Hopefully. Sarah J. Maas, please, please, please.
I wonder if that's, wait a second, because Tamlin is the spring court and spring is rebirth and it is growth. And I wonder if we're going to see that, and like that's why Tamlin is High Lord of the spring court, is because we're going to get to see that rebirth of Tamlin as a new person and his growth and all that and flourishing.
Yes.
I don't know. I just came up with that right now.
Yes. Yes. Well, cheers to that. It's been great chatting with you.
Great chatting with you
I
too.
love you so much. Catch us next week for another episode.
Whimsy Gossip.
Whimsy Gossip.
Follow us on Instagram,
TikTok,
on YouTube, and feel free to comment on
Spotify.
this. DM us your thoughts. DM us if you want to debate us on this, if you want to chat about all things, if you want to have a whimsy little chat with us, by all means, comment down below. DM us, whatever. We love to talk about ACOTAR, so
Yes. All right. Well, that wraps it up for today. Bye, everyone.